Hey guys, in this video we're going to discuss how to define functions in Python. For our first example, we'll define a function that takes two integers and displays the sum. Now, to define functions in Python, we use the def keyword, and we'll call our function addNumbers. And this function will take input variables num1 and num2, and to start simple, we could simply display the sum of num1 and num2. And if we call our function addNumbers, let's say numbers 5 and 7, it should display 12. Now we could do something more interesting. For example, we could use f strings to say something like 5 plus 7 is 12. So f strings syntactically is used with this f open quotation, the variable in the curly bracket, and we'll say plus and the next variable in the curly bracket, and we could say is, and this is just gonna display the sum. Okay, now if we call our function, let's see, do I have any errors? Okay, now if we call our function with 5 and 7, we should get 5 plus 7 is the sum, which is 12. Let's run this. We get 5 plus 7 is 12. Now, another interesting thing we can do is define a function that takes two strings and displays a custom message based off of the two strings. Now, let's call our function getAddress. Suppose we want to take an input name and address, and we want to say where this person lives. For example, if we have the name Bob and the address 10 Oak Street, we want to display Bob lives at 10 Oak Street. So we can call this function getAddress, and it'll take a name and address, and we can use f strings for this as well. We could say name lives at address, and we can call this function with inputs Bob and 10 Oak Street. Now let's run this selection of code, and the way we do that is with this black arrow at the top of the Spider IDE, and we see Bob lives at 10 Oak Street. Now, another important thing to know about defining functions in general is you can return values and store these values in separate variables. So if we go back up to our addNumbers function, we can simply return the sum of these two input variables. Now, then what we can do is we could say sum value equals the function. Let's input two different numbers now. Let's call this, let's use actually 10 and 23. If we print sum value, we should get the sum of 10 and 23, which is 33. Now let's run this section of code and see what happens. So we get 33 here, and we also get 10 plus 23, this message, 10 plus 23 is 33, which is pretty nice. Similarly, with the getAddress method, function, we can use the return keyword to further store these messages in additional variables. So if you wanted to do that, you could do something like return, and just let's copy this. And if we say message equals getAddress, and we print message, we get message Bob lives at 10 Oak Street. I'll stop here, but I encourage you to play around with the code yourself. The link to the GitHub repo with the code is in the description below. Thank you for watching.